Welcome. Welcome to this virtual event, Creating Opportunity from Chaos, Reimagining Gender Equality, Education, and Community through Leadership. Just want to make sure you're in the right Zoom event today. My name is Yolande Miller-Granvaux. I'm at FHI 360. I have the privilege of being the Senior Strategy Advisor in the Global Education Department. And before we start, just a quick reminder that your microphones need to be muted throughout the event. And also just please understand that our youth participants are joining us from different parts of the world, so they may not have strong connectivity. So we ask you to be patient if they experience any technical difficulties. This is an event in honor of International Day of the Girl. As you know, in 2011, the United Nations General Assembly adopted a resolution to promote girls' rights, to promote their empowerment, and they declared October 11 as the International Day of the Girl. So we 2 days, not late, but in this continuum of celebrating what girls can do to make the world a better place. I'm part of the Global Education Department at FHI 360. We are organizing this event with the Gender and Social Inclusion Department. And we are all over the world promoting education and empowerment for girls. You can find more about what FHI does online, of course. But I just want to give you an overview of this event. This is about reimagining learning. This is about reimagining life with the right agency, with the right skills that will allow youth to be empowered. It is about reimagining relationships for equality across generations, across borders, across gender identities. It's about reimagining the dialogue with youth. Youth is at the decision table. You see the youth that we have today, right here on your screen. They are taking risks every day, and that's what we're going to hear about. So we have Simon from Kenya, we have Natasha from Zambia, we have Casimir from Senegal, and we have Miriam from Tunisia. They're the ones that will tell us what to think and what to do to promote youth. In the weeks leading up to this event, we ask you to respond to the questions: what are the most important issues that youth faced in your communities? And we put them in a word cloud. So I wanted to show you what the most salient issues are. And as you know, the larger the font, the more salient the issue is. And this is what they said. So take a few seconds to absorb this. I'm sure they're not surprises to you, but this is what our youth are facing, and this event is about them addressing these issues. So now I just want to introduce Mike McCabe. We're just so happy to have Mike on board. Mike is the United States Agency for International Development Youth Coordinator. And he has a big job because he's the one who helps integrate youth engagement and development issues across the agency, the United States Agency for International Development. He oversees the implementation of the youth policy. He serves as the senior representative on youth issues across the United States government and the external community. And he has over 30 years of experience working with youth. So we are just delighted to have him with us today to open this event. Mike, the floor is yours.
Thanks so much and welcome. Thank you, Yolande, for organizing this important celebration of International Day of the Girl. It's an honor to be here with Simon and Natasha, Casimir and Miriam, as well as with all of you. But I want to start by asking you to imagine. Imagine we're a few years from now in the future, and global leaders, including heads of government, private sector leaders, the UN Secretary General, young leaders are all gathered to discuss how they successfully work to overcome one of the biggest crises to face their countries in the past century. These leaders lay out a bold new vision for a peaceful, prosperous, and stable country and globe. Now imagine that almost all of these leaders are women. How do we get there? The evidence is really clear that early investment in young women and girls is one of the best investments a country and a donor can make in development. And most women who become leaders in their communities started engaging in education and leadership activities during their adolescence. So global prosperity and what we at USAID call the journey to self-reliance start with prioritizing and empowering girls so they can thrive and succeed and make long-lasting positive impact on their own future as well as that of their family, their communities, and their countries. So today on Day of the Girl and every day, USAID celebrates the power of girls on global programs across all sectors in development. It's truly one of the great joys of my work to see girls and young women leading on addressing issues of domestic violence prevention or public health or innovation in education and entrepreneurship, or just using technology in new ways to solve old problems. We're coming together to dialogue with young women and young men from Kenya, Senegal, Tunisia, Zambia, to reimagine, as Yolande said, as well as to listen to their experiences and insights on how we improve on those investments. And I'm honored to be joined by Natasha from the USAID-funded Youth Lead activity in Zambia, and Casimir, who works with the Women's Global Program in Senegal, Miriam, who's with the USAID-funded Ma'an project in Tunisia, and Simon from the Sante Africa project in Kenya, who each of them will talk to us about their work in their community and how they make equality, education, and equity a reality. Through their stories, they'll share with us what equality looks like on a daily life for a young woman in different contexts. They'll show us how they support their peers, how they empower adolescent girls and young women to rebound from hardship and grow upon that. And most importantly, how they build on these domains of what we call positive youth development by building skills, a sense of agency, and opportunities to impact their community, as well as partnering with others in that enabling environment. I had the pleasure this past February to be at a meeting of 100 young leaders in the Middle East North Africa Youth Summit. And it brought together these young leaders, our USAID staff, and our partners from around the world. Little did we know a week later, countries around the world would be jolted into the reality of the current pandemic. And these 100 young leaders like Mariam, who started as a youth community mapper in Tunisia, would become young mentors to other young people to think about how do we move forward on COVID education efforts? How do we develop masks and sanitizers by pivoting our youth programming? And how do we advance leadership for other young leaders? And out of that, in August, USAID launched its Global Leadership in Education for Advancing Development, or Global LEAD initiative. It's a 5-year commitment to support and activate over 1 million young leaders through increased investments in civic education, engagement, and leadership. Our aim is to empower youth, especially young women, to become champions in their community to promote positive youth development and growth. And we're committed to move beyond rhetoric and find the concrete ways for youth to be partners with us to overcome some of these intractable problems. I want to clarify something. It's not about us empowering them, but about supporting their own empowerment. And that's a key concept that we're trying to really instill in USAID moving forward and our partners. So today we're especially focusing on equality, protection, and education. And USAID is building that capacity of the next generation of young female leaders around the world. So we know that young women face many gender-based challenges, but we also know that men and young men play a fundamental role in supporting their sisters, in supporting their daughters, and supporting their friends to lead safe, healthy, and productive lives. And youth have the power to shift harmful gender and social norms so that boys and girls, men and women, work together toward a more just and equal society. I'm delighted to open this panel on creating opportunity from chaos, reimagining education, equality, and community through leadership. And I want to pass the baton back to you, Yulan, so that we can start this journey together by listening to these young leaders. Thanks.
Thank you, Mike. That was really inspiring. And Mike said the right thing. We need to go beyond rhetoric. And that's what we're going to see now with our panel. First, before we meet our panel, I just want to remind you that you can post questions in the chat box. Questions will be answered later in the program, and any questions that we don't get to will be answered after the event. So we will now meet our panel. So we're going to Natasha. We're going to Zambia. Natasha.
Hello, everyone. My name is Natasha Kalipa. I'm from Zambia. I'm 24 years old. I'm a girl child activist. I am also a public health practitioner, also a mental health specialist. I was currently on the Youth Lead project here in Zambia, and I'm working on a project here with Think House Project is a program that we have just here in Zambia, where we have 2,000 young girls, 1,000 HIV positive, and the other 1,000 are broken down into different categories of either defilement, rape, and many other gender-based violence cases. So I'm the community programming consultant in charge of facilitating their programming, their counseling, and I'm just the one in charge of these girls in my country here in Zambia. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Natasha. And now we're going to move to Senegal with Casimir Kohli.
Thank you. I'm Casimir. I'm happy to be one of the panelists of this event dedicated for girls. I was born in Fatick, one of the region of Senegal, where I did my primary and secondary school and where I graduated with my bac. And after that, I went to university in Dakar when I got my degree in social sciences. And, you know, I always wanted to come back and work for my own community where I grew up, above all in the field of education, since most of the members of my community was uneducated. And I was lucky that Women's Global offered me this opportunity by hiring me as a program coordinator. And I have been working with Women's Global since 2016. Women's Global currently implements two programs, the first being Sisters in School, which supports girls' education through a holistic model. And the second one is Sisters Lead, the one I coordinate, which train high school girls on leadership modules to become young emerging leaders and to be able to create the change they want to see in their own community. So the interventions are completely driven by the girls themselves. So, I mean, from the identification of from the choice of the models on which they are trained to the choice of the problem to be solved in their community. So as a program coordinator, I oversee the implementation of the program activities. I ensure the monitoring and evaluation of the program and train the leaders, you know, in project management. And above all, I support them morally and coach them during their community activities. Thank you.
Thank you, Casimir. You feel the passion over cyberspace? I do. And now we're going to Tunisia with Miriam Araki.
Hello, everyone. So as said, Yolande, I'm Miriam Araki. I'm from Tunisia. I'm 21 years old. I used to be a youth mapper. Currently, I'm a youth mentor. I volunteered as youth mapper before, and currently I'm volunteering as youth mentor. Through my mentoring session, I always try to gather the girls throughout the sessions with my team in order to avoid the challenges they face in our community. So that's it.
Thank you, Miriam. Miriam's 21. You are just raising mountains. And finally, we're going
Thank
to
you.
Kenya with Simon.
So, thank you very much, Yolande. It's really exciting to be here. And hello, everyone. My name is Simon Kinyanjure, of course, from Kenya. Simon is 29 years old, a Yali alumni, and also a graduate of Bachelor of Arts in Community Development. Currently, Simon acts as the Adolescent Program Coordinator for Asante Africa Foundation, where in the last 1 year, I've been coordinating over 2,000 adolescent girls and boys among the most marginalized communities in Kenya. And what we do with these adolescent girls and boys, we focus on building their health, financial, and social assets. And we do this through trainings, particularly on sexual reproductive health, hygiene and rights, financial literacy, and personal rights. Now, you may ask why a man is here and you are celebrating the International Day of the Girl. Now, as a man, I find my passion for adolescent girls being driven by the need to be a voice for their needs. Sometimes we find social cultural factors may be a stumbling block, so that's why I'm here to represent the girls. Let's talk about our girls. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Simon. See, I told you this panel of youth is absolutely amazing. So we are going now to listen to their stories, and they're very concrete examples of what they're doing. And I know it will inspire you, but we will also learn from them. So I have a first question, and we'll start with Natasha. Natasha, can you give us an example of what challenges adolescent girls are facing in your community, and also talk about how COVID has exacerbated these challenges?
Okay. So like I said earlier, I work with 2,000 young girls just within one small catchment area. So out of these 2,000 girls, like I had stated, we have 1,000. That's a tiny area that we have in our city capital. So we just picked on that area and we have 2,000 cases, and some of the cases that we are working on, one is, the most common one is sexual abuse. And the worst part is that the perpetrators are in the homes for these young girls. So we find that they're being defiled each and every day by their fathers, by their brothers, by their uncles, and they're subjected to these torments, they're subjected to this torture. A case that I can give is of a father that has been repeatedly raping or defiling his 15-year-old, and he's claiming to say he's preparing her for marriage. He says, this is something that you're going to experience in marriage, and so to train you psychologically for that, I'm going to have to defile you each and every time. And then what happens is that it's not always the offender that's directly exacerbating these cases, but we also have cases of where there's another person that's connected. Another example that I'll give is of a young girl that was defiled when she was 9 by a visitor, her father's friend. But then because of their low state, he offers, after they had taken the case to the police, he tells the family to say, can I repeatedly do this act of raping this child, but I'm going to put you on a monthly salary. And these parents to this child consent to that because he says he's going to be paying them to keep raping this young girl. And that started when she was 9 years old, and now she is 16. And she only came out to speak to me when it has worsened. She's now HIV positive, she has STIs, there's so much that's going on. So the perpetrators and the people that are conniving with these acts are within the homes of these young girls here in Zambia. And it's so sad. Sometimes these same cases of abuse also they tend to result into rape and unwanted pregnancies, unplanned pregnancies, which sometimes also leads to unsafe abortions. For example, a certain grandmother was blaming the daughter for getting pregnant from her uncle. He told her to say, you needed to be more careful. That's after she was defiled and she got pregnant. And then she tells her to say, to punish you for your carelessness and being raped after, I'm going to get rid of the child through an unsafe method. She gets a cassava stick and inserts it in the child's private part, and she begins to kill what is inside. So on top of the torture of the rape, this girl is going through the pain of being blamed. And then as if that's not enough, we are now in COVID and there is the lockdown. And you can imagine this child that's vulnerable in the same home with these people around, a mother that's getting paid for you to be raped, a father that's defiling you each and every day. And there's so much that's going on there. There's restriction in movement, and you are just bound in the home with these perpetrators. So it's really something that's bad. The numbers have doubled, the cases are doubling, and we really need to do something. We really need to voice out for these young girls. Thank you.
Thank you, Natasha. Thank you. There are no comments on that. Casimir, can you tell us what challenges?
There are so many challenges adolescents girls face in our community. So mainly we have the poverty of families headed above all by young women. And we also have early pregnancies, which are often forced. For instance, our community, our area of intervention is reported to being the place where we have the highest rate of early marriage in the region. So the reason is that we had some ethnic group here that as soon as the baby girl is born, it already has a family in law where she is supposed to get a husband when she is teenage. So we also have early pregnancies. Of course, if we have early marriages, we inevitably have early pregnancies. So we also have gender-based violence. And here, I would like to emphasize what Natasha has just said, because most of the time, they are raped inside the families. So it's because it is family that the survivors are forced to keep silence. No, the parents, they force them, not to denounce the perpetrators. So most of the issues are exacerbated because of COVID-19. So let me tell you one example that just happened. One of the girls in our scholarship program during the COVID-19 pandemic, she was at home for a few months during the school closure. And since her family could not afford her to feed, so they sent her to a grandmom, to her grandmom compound. So unfortunately, she was raped by her own cousin. And she was found later, she realized that she was pregnant and she had just got a baby a couple of weeks ago. So it's because of the pandemic that she was put in gender-based violence and now got pregnant. And now she's not qualified to go back in school when school opens in November. So because here in Senegal, when a girl gets pregnant, she's not allowed to stay in school. So we need to put her in private schools if we are continuing to support her in our scholarship program. So most of the girls in our communities are living this situation. So thank you.
Thank you, Casimir. You really bring the invisible more visible for us. Miriam, what is the situation in Tunisia? You're on mute.
Sorry. First of all, I want to say that I'm so grateful. I'm super grateful that I'm here today to talk on behalf of the girls, of the adolescent girls in my community. I want to focus specifically on the sexual harassment and the physical and verbal violence the adolescent girls are facing day after day in my community and in my society as well. I want to mention that in Tunisia here, people are more likely to be conservative, okay? So they're always using the religion as a pretext in order to attack the women and the adolescent girls. I want to mention that a lot of cases that happened, which happened lately, I remember a case of a girl who was torn into pieces. She was raped and then she was torn into pieces. And the doer, the guilty, the person, the doer of that thing, he wasn't arrested at first. I went to the comment section to see what or how people would react to this case, to this horrendous crime. And there people were attacking the girl herself. They're saying she shouldn't wear like this. She should wear more larger clothes. She is the real guilty. She's not the victim. So this is the main issue here. Okay, so the girl in my community, in my society, is considered as the guilty instead of the victim. That's what I'm going to mention. I remember another case also about a woman who was beaten to death from her husband, and people are like valorizing the things that her husband did, and they say, okay, she's a woman, as if she has no sense in our community. I want to mention that also COVID-19 has exacerbated these challenges in my community. Okay, adolescent girls are forced to interrupt their studies, their education, or some other girls resort to work. They are at a really young age. I'm talking specifically in the rural areas. They resort to work at a young age, at 10, at 9, even at 8 years old. So, which may, I don't know, the brother and the father. I mean, the home isn't a safe space or a safe place for the girls anymore. So the father could take advantage of that and assault his daughter, as well as the brother assault his sister, just for stupid reasons. So that's the main thing I want to talk about. That's the main challenges that girls, adolescent girls, are facing in my community. That's it.
Thank you, Miriam. Thank you. It can be overwhelming. Simon.
Right. Thank you, Alal. We work in communities where culture is more louder than laws or even orders. And sometimes these communities, sometimes they might be referred as last mile communities in Kenya, and they are mostly nomadic and pastoralist. So these people are denied of the basic needs, and the resources to these counties or even these areas, they are unequally distributed. So you find when we talk in the context of adolescent girls, when it comes to information about their sexual reproductive health, their rights, or even hygiene, it becomes a problem. So the only avenues or platforms that have been read for these adolescent girls to get the information about their sexual reproductive health, when COVID came, these places were closed. Sometimes we refer to them as safe spaces. Take, for example, a school. A school is a safe space for these girls. And we have these clubs in these schools where we teach them about their sexual reproductive health and hygiene. So when COVID came and the schools were closed and they could not attend schools, there were nowhere they could get this information about their sexuality. As a result, these adolescent girls could not even afford sanitary towels. What did they do? Most of them, data proves that most of these adolescent girls engaged in transactional sex. And they engaged in transactional sex so that they cannot buy food or they cannot buy clothes. They're engaging in transactional sex so that they can afford to buy sanitary towels. One of the key hindrances where these adolescent girls are not getting this sexual reproductive health and hygiene is the patriarchal kind of families that they come from. The role of apprenticeship or the role of having a role model in these families has been made particularly for the mother. Sometimes the mother is out there looking for food, fetching for firewood, fetching water, but the role of a man in the house is neglected. They don't have a say. In addition, most of these girls, they don't have gadgets where they can access information about their sexual reproductive health or even rights or hygiene. The teachers were not in the schools, their peers were not in the schools, so who could they run to? As a result, they don't know when menstruation starts. When menstruation starts, they don't know what to do. Some of them, you could find they are digging holes in their houses and they could stay there for a whole day until their menses are through. Some of them are cutting some pieces of their clothes or even some skins from the goats of the sheep, so that at least they can be able to protect from the menses. So it becomes very hard. It becomes very hard when it comes to an issue about how these adolescent girls can access information. So that has been the major problem of these adolescent girls in this COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. This gives us a picture of the reality that you live. Thank you so much. Could you tell us now, how do you address these issues? Briefly, but I know that's what you're doing every day. So please tell us. Natasha.
Okay. So where I'm currently working, I'm in charge of facilitating the one-on-one sessions that we have with the girls. And because of the post-trauma that they have been through, I see to it that we have those therapeutic sessions with them. I also empower them with various skills, understanding to say these perpetrators that I was talking about feed on the fact that these people are vulnerable, because they are their source of income, they're the source of food. So they tell them, I'm going to keep sleeping with you against your will, but then you can't report me, because then what happens? There are times when the girl child would want to report, but then the family is going to rise up, sit the girl child down and tell her to say, so then what happens if your father gets arrested? How are we going to survive? So the child is caught in between all that. And that is why we try to empower them with various skills. We are currently making scarves. We are teaching them also the importance of value addition. So we add beads to those scarves and then we resell them to at least give the children something. Taking advantage of the COVID situation, we are also making the reusable masks. We are also reselling that, and also shifting to their vulnerable states and the abuse that they're going through. We teach them every time various life skills like self-defense. You need to be ready because perpetrators are everywhere. So we ensure that these girls are equipped with skills on how they can protect themselves, how they can not only defend themselves, but pass on that knowledge as well in their schools. Wherever social gatherings they have, they can pass on whatever skills they are taught to their friends. And then we have something that we call the I am original concept. So this concept came about when I was counseling one of the girls. She was defiled and she was HIV positive and she had an unplanned pregnancy. But she came to me in high spirits and she told me to say, despite what I have gone through, my past does not predetermine my future, and I am as original as I can be. And I said, if we can have this attitude, not in only one girl, but if we can spread this across all the 2,000 girls that we're working with, hopefully even more than our catchment area. And if any girl can know to say, I am original, and yes, this has happened in the past, but I need to be assertive. I need to learn self-defense. I need to teach this to my friends. We should not be in the victim state of self-pity for too long. We need to get up, we need to rise up. And this is something that we have been teaching our girls. That's the I am original concept. Then moving away from that, we also have a body training. It's one thing for us to help the young girls, but then what about their bodies? In this case, the parents and their guardians. So I have frequently what we call body training. We tell them to say, look, if your girl child is not comfortable, they are behaving funny in front of their uncle, in front of their father, that should signal you something. We have those talks with them. So we call that body training. We ensure to say we sensitize the mothers and the people around them, just so as to create an enabling environment, an environment that's supportive for the girls. So that's something that we are really doing and that I'm personally doing in my space. Thank you.
Thank you, Natasha. Casimir.
Well, thank you. To combat these issues, we have developed a girls leadership program for the high school girls. So in choosing the models on which they are supposed to be trained, we favor the inclusive approach because it's the girls themselves who chose the models. So last year they chose advocacy, communication, conflict resolution, and waste management. And as a program coordinator, I contacted trainers, and who are most of the time they are women leaders, so that they can be a role model, also they can inspire the girl. So I remember the very day we introduced the program to the girls by outlining the program goals, they were already enthusiastic and already consider themselves as girls leader by adding the word leader in their first name. For instance, Alima leader, Hadi leader, Fatu leader. It was so beautiful to see the strong desire of these young girls to be agent of change by just introducing to them the program. So they are aged between 16 and 17. And then after they have been trained in those modules and in project management, we start carrying out awareness campaign against the issue they face in their community, such as gender-based violence, early marriages, early pregnancies, and we held it through radio programs hosted by the girls themselves. We also have home visits to the community leaders, such as religious leaders, because they are decision makers, and the girls, they integrated those religious leaders so that they can together, denounce what the girls are facing. So we also have what we call, the sport. We advertise sports in local languages so that we can get the whole community involved in what we're doing. And before the restrictions on gatherings, we organized social mobilization, causeries, panels, where the girls used to sit as panelists with some religious leaders so they can denounce the situation experienced by young girls. So as a young man, I work to help and give the adolescent girls the skills they need to tackle the issue by supporting them above all during the implementation of their activities. So, on not only on how to behave and how to communicate publicly, but also without offending the sensibility of the community, because the most essential thing is to condemn, but without insulting. So I feel that it is important as a young man to involve in this work, so that I want to be a role model. So as the young as a man in my community can join me in the work. So what I am considering, especially now, is that because of COVID-19, is the integration of positive masculinity in the program. So we will create young men, young peer men, so that they can, we want to train them in reproductive health, and so that they can in turn, sensitize their peer. So we also intend to raise what we call neighborhood worship committees, so we can integrate the whole community, to get, inside the work. So thank you.
Thank you, Casimir. You are a role model. You're mine right now. Miriam in Tunisia.
Yes, I'm going to talk about my role as a youth mentor in my community in Sousse, Tunisia. As I mentioned at first, that I'm a youth mentor under the program MAN, funded by USAID. So in my storytelling sessions, or in all my sessions in general, I always look forward with my team, to hear the stories of the girls and the challenges that adolescent girls are facing in my society. So I always want to set storytelling session in order to hear them, in order to support them and find solutions all together. So I always want to change the typical thinking of the girls or even the others in my community. I want to change the typical thinking about you should wear like this in order to not get harassed. I want to change the thing that the wearing is a card to for you to get violated or to get harassed. I want to change the thinking. Sorry, that your mind and your spirit is the card or the key to empowerment and militance. So that's the whole thing I'm focusing in my storytelling sessions. I always look forward with my team to spread the awareness because, as you know, in Tunisia, as I mentioned, that they're a little bit conservative. People here, they're using the religion as a pretext, which is not true. Religion set the women free, but they want to change that thing to other things. So I want to spread the awareness, and I want to emphasize about the that girls should change their thinking about learn how to, for example, how to protect themselves and to not just be stereotype or have that typical thinking. So that's the main thing I'm focusing in my storytelling session and in my mentoring sessions as well. So the main thing I want to change is the mentality and to support those adolescent girls in my community and in my society as well. I feel so proud when a girl comes to me and say, Mariam, I want to be like you. I want to work in the civil society. How did you get there? I want to achieve my dreams. I want to tell them, or I want to learn them that this is not a dream. This is a goal. This is not a dream that you cannot that this is not a dream that you're just living in fantasy. No, this is a goal and you can do it. Actually, you can attempt it. So that's the whole thing. I want to see a lot of examples of girls, of adolescent girls, leading their impact in the society and being their own leaders. Because I believe as much that the woman is a beauty and a body, she is a spirit and a mind full of a lot of magic. I want them to learn that they can do magic with their hands as much that they can do the magic with their own mindset. I want to change the whole mindset in my community. I want the girls to look forward their goals instead of staying with no motionless. I cannot do anything. I want them to learn that they can do everything in my society, and I will support every girl needs help here. So that's it.
Thank you, Mariam. I think the magic, you started the magic. Simon.
Right. Thank you very much, Ola. And what I'm going to share, the actions that I've been taking, the actions have been very effective since they have been developing consultation with the youth. The first one was the radio programs. We have done the idea of radio programs was developed by youth, and of course, Asante Africa funded the initiative. These radio programs, we focused on the specific, or we are even focusing on the specific areas, like how do we try to sensitize the adolescent girls plus their families on their rights, on how they can keep themselves safe. These sessions have been running for 2 weeks, every week for 2 weeks, with people having conversation, asking the taboo questions, the questions that people don't want to ask or to be answered. And where you find even, we have more than 500 messages coming in. People want these topics to continue. They're yearning for this information. And in addition to this, adolescent girls cannot be empowered by one person. We have to employ a multi-stakeholder approach. That's why we do home visits. And in these home visits, We visit particularly what we call their houses here. We refer to them as manyatas. These houses we go, you cannot talk to these people in English. So you have to print like flyers in their local language so that at least even the oldest can understand. During these home visits, we do the parental engagement. We want the parents to be engaged in this discussion. How can we make our adolescents safer? How can we empower these adolescents? We provide sanitary towels. Another thing that has happened for the past 2 weeks, we have done rescues for the girls which were forcefully married off. You find an older man who in my words I may say is insensitive to the needs of this adolescent girl, 13 years old, 12 years old, is going for a hand, is asking for a hand of marriage for this girl. So when we go for such rescues, you find we have partners. For example, we have the government, the local authorities are there, we have the chiefs are there, and of course we have to engage the schools. Let me talk about something that is currently continuing. We have employed, or we have embraced what we call community-based model. And this community-based model, we are doing the community trainings. These community trainings, we have identified local role models in these particular villages. Remember, we said sometimes it is very hard for these adults and girls to access information since they may not have the channels or they may not have the gadgets. So we have to utilize the locally available resources, and that is the community models or the community mentors. So currently we have more than 400 girls who have already been enrolled in these trainings, and they are really appreciating them. Also, something that we are doing what we call follow-ups through frequent phone calls. We make phone calls to our beneficiaries or to some of these girls. We have tools that you employ to identify the most needy girls that you may, if we want to do follow-ups, whether at the household level or at the school level for those who have already opened the schools. So these are some of the issues these are some of the initiatives that we have tried to employ to see whether the information can reach at least to the household level. If we want to empower an adolescent girl, don't forget about the mother. Don't forget about the brother. Don't forget about the father. Don't forget about those who are close to her. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Simon. Yes, thank you. It's a community that needs to be present. So thank you all. I want to move to another question, which is related to education. How do there are adolescent girls. We know that adolescent girls are the most vulnerable segment of population worldwide, and they're the ones who don't necessarily have access to education or learning opportunities. So I would like you to do the same thing and give us examples of the challenges that adolescent girls in community face in accessing education opportunities, and then what you are doing to help them address these issues. So Natasha, please start.
Okay. Yes, so the major challenge that we have in our community is the financial challenges. So here in Zambia, primary education from 1st grade up to 7th grade is free. So then from the 8th grade all the way up to the 12th grade, you have to pay for it. So in my community where I'm working, we find that we have a lot of grade 7 dropouts because they cannot afford to pay their tuition fee from the 8th grade all the way up to the 12th grade. And then seeing the category of the girls that I work with, there's post-trauma that they have to deal with. Imagine coming from a home where you've been raped by your father and you have to sit in a class and you need to listen to the teacher and concentrate. So they suffer from that lack of concentration or poor concentration. And then you find that even their academic performance in school is very bad because of the same trauma that they are exposed to at their homes. So you find that most of the young girls, if you walked into our city capital today, you find that majority of the young girls are on the streets vending and they are selling, trying to just get some money for them to gain an education. So it's really sad. They have to deal with that trauma at home. And then there's also the digital divide. Speaking of COVID again, not many have access to phones. So it's very difficult for them to keep up with the online learning. And then in Zambia, if you ask any Zambian right now, the load shedding has just hiked, and then it's really difficult for them. Then the Zambia National Broadcasting Corporation says they are going to broadcast a few subjects, but then it's only limited to 40 minutes in a day. So it's very less impactful. The very same subjects that are being broadcasted are not what everyone is doing. They are not grade specific. Usually it's just general education. So there's really, it's been a tough time, especially during this COVID period. It's been really rough for the girls. So following the financial challenges, those that cannot be in school, we have taken a peer-to-peer approach. So the girls that have managed to complete, those that are at least privileged, have decided to come up with what they are calling the Pink Girls Tuition Squad. I work on the Pink House project I had mentioned earlier. So they are calling this the Pink Girls Tuition Squad, where they help their fellow peers. So they've given themselves days, they've given themselves subjects. It's open to the general public. The Pink House is a safe space, so it's open to girls to come through and learn. They share material that they were using while in high school. And also we are taking advantage of the EAC material that's free to be distributed to communities. So we use that as well. There are times when we have the buddy training, the one that I was saying parents come over, we take advantage of the retirees in the education system. They also come through and share the knowledge that they have, the subjects that they were teaching with the girls. We also have a few community volunteers that come together and they share this knowledge with the girls. So mostly for us, we have taken the peer-to-peer as something that's great, because the girls are inspired to say, I want to be like this adolescent. I also want to do this. As they are learning from their peers, I'm also pushing with linkage. I'm also pushing for connections with different organizations that offer scholarships in my space. So as we are doing the groundwork, we want to make sure that even as we find scholarships for these girls, at least they are equipped with the necessary knowledge that is needed for them to attain these scholarships. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Natasha. Thank you. Casimir.
Yeah, again, there are so many issues, and it is complicated because the girls in our community, they face gender inequality, and that is at the center of them getting ahead in their education too. And it is all interconnected. So the same list, it is, we have poverty, we have early marriages, early pregnancies, but in addition to that, they face the issue of failing nationwide exam in order to move in the next grade. And we also have the parental attitudes not in favor of girls' education and supporting girls in general. And now, especially with the pandemic, the families need in paying for basic stuff like food. So they are so that's why they are sending their daughter away to become domestic workers in Dakar or in the Gambia, because our area of intervention is not far from the Gambia. So, and then, you know, in our program this year, we have 45 girls in our scholars who were, you know, sent away as maid in Dakar and in the Gambia. So now it is going to be so much difficult and for them to reintegrate these girls back in school, you know, in November, because the school will open in November, because some of the families may still need the money they are bringing in. So some of them could get pregnant, and some of them would get married because they will get married to some immigrants, you know, and most of the women are facing the situation as far as learning and pursuing an education is concerned. Thank you.
Thank you, Casimir. Miriam.
Okay, I want to focus on two major points. I want to focus on the sexual harassment that adolescent girls are facing in my community, and the educational issues in the rural areas. Okay, for the urban areas, okay, most of the girls go to school. Most of the girls go to uni, and they practice all what they want in their educational surrounding, and it's all normal. But which is abnormal in this, that the professors themselves sexually harass adolescent girls in my community. But the bright side, or the positive thing in this, that the girls are aware, and they are conscious about what is happening in their educational surrounding. So the positive thing as well, that they all put themselves together and put their hands all together in order to face this sexual harassment. And I heard a lot of successful cases about harassment, about girls get harassed from their professors, and of course they stood by the girls themselves, and they supported them and protected them, and they fired those professors. Of course, professors, they were arrested as well. But the negative thing, I'm going to the rural areas where girls are forced to interrupt their own studies at a really young age. I mean, at the age of 6 or 7, most of them just study for 1 year, or some of them never study. They don't know even how to write their names. I watched a video about a girl cannot even read her name. They wrote her name and she could not read it. Plus, they're forced to work in the agricultural areas and to work as agriculturists. So at a young age, I mean at the age of 13 and at the age of 12. Since the age of 12 till till the age of 16 even. Even if they're old, they're going to pursue or to continue that hard working. So the bad thing that our government, it doesn't do a lot of things or changes about this thing. I mean, in the rural areas, girls are more likely to be neglected, and they're not practicing their goals or practicing their studies there. So that's the main challenges I want to focus about the educational issues. So that's the main thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Miriam. Thank you. And Simon, can you talk about education challenges and actions?
Yeah, thank you very, very much, Yolande. Allow me to re-echo about the theme of the day. We're talking about creating opportunity from chaos, and we are reimagining education. Allow me paint a picture of what education means to these adolescent girls in my context. They have to walk 10 kilometers to access school. In their villages, we don't have internet coverage, or they cannot even make a call. We have roads that are not accessible. Now, imagine these girls, now the schools are closed and they want to access education. But we have tried to do some 3 things that have tried to bring them on board and continue learning, so that even when they resume schools, they may be at par with the rest of the adolescents. And one of the major issues that has been very effective, we introduced the community learning pods. These community learning pods, they work where we go to a particular village, where we have primary and secondary students there. We have teachers who are from the same village. We cluster these students or these adolescents, either for primary and for secondary, and we have teachers assigned to monitor them as they do their assignments and the revision. We do this when we have already given them or provided them with tablets. And these tablets, they are fed with curriculum and syllabus and revision materials. So the work of this community teacher will be doing the follow-ups, whether the homework or the assignment that they give to these adolescents, they were able to finish, or if there was a hard concept that they could not get, they will be able to assist in the revision. Apart from the normal academics, what we are having these teachers do to these adolescents, they are also teaching them about life skills or even livelihoods. And I've seen so much of them, so much of these adolescents initiating IGS. We had some trying to make masks and sell to their villages. Some could make liquid soap and sell to some of the households. So another thing that we have tried to do, in this generation, we cannot ignore technology. Technology goes hand in hand with how we are evolving. And although these places, some of these places do not have internet coverage, some of these areas, at least they can access some internet coverage. And we introduced what we call Academic Village 2020. This is a WhatsApp group run by teachers. And what these teachers could do, they could go in front of a class with their videos on, they are live. So they record them teaching a particular subject or a particular lesson. Then these students could ask questions live when the teacher is teaching. And you've seen this initiative so much impactful that you have seen these students even yearning for more of such initiatives. Now, we have in Kenya something we call bulk SMSing. And we connected with one of the companies, and this company helped us to send revision materials in form of SMSs. So if some of them could want to ask questions, they could ask questions and be given answers in form of an SMS. Or if they want to access a certain link to a particular subject, they could get it they could get it from the SMS. So, and then when we did a home visits, one of the things that was that you could do is we provide, now for those who don't have phones, for those who cannot access their tablets, we did provide the hard materials revision books. So like we have an encyclopedia with all the subjects with some past papers. So we provide them to these adolescents, and then they are able to do their revisions. They could group themselves in the villages and embrace one of our core values, that is pay it forward. When they revise, at least they pay it forward to some of the students who could not access the same materials. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The learning pods are something that we're also working on in the US. We're running out of time, so there are just a couple of questions that I want to extract from the large list of questions that you sent us, you as a wonderful audience. And I'm just going to ask Natasha one question that came up. When should issues of gender be addressed in school? And how early can we start talking about issues of gender in school? Just 1 minute, Natasha.
Okay, so my parents are both teachers, so they started as far back as I can remember. So it should start as far back as when someone is small. You know, of course, you don't have to bombard them with big issues of gender, but just the basic baby steps. From that, I was able to pick up a few things. I was able to teach my friends to say, when daddy beats mommy, that's not okay. When uncle touches you here, that's not okay. As a child, I grew up and I was developing with time, gaining more information, but at a tender age, I knew the baby information that surrounds gender. So start as far back as when a person is young, and then keep increasing, keep adding more knowledge as a person is growing up. So you can start from the first grade, even at kindergarten, just know how to deliver the information.
Great, thank you, Natasha. And there's another question that came up that's on the other end of that spectrum, and I will ask Casimir, what role does the government play in addressing these issues in school?
Well, about the issues, the law is here. The government have put the laws, but unfortunately, people they don't denounce. For instance, when the girls are raped if their parents, they force them to keep silence, it is difficult for them to denounce the situation. But the laws are here, and the governments, they have put the laws, the Senegalese government. But unfortunately, the parents, they don't give, the girls the opportunity to denounce the people who who perpetrate the rape upon them. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Casimir. This is not easy. We have to stop the question and answers, unfortunately, and we all want to hear more from Casimir and Miriam and Simon and Natasha, but we're going to start closing because Mike has a lot to tell us about resources that are available and next steps. So, Mike, can you take over?
Wow. I'll be brief. Thank you so much to each of you for your incredibly powerful insights and experiences in a year that's been challenging to each and every one of us in our own ways, in our country, in our family. There's so much to take away from what I think we just heard from Miriam and Simon and Casimir and Natasha. I think they've shared, how they support young people in their empowerment, and how they shared how they can't overlook the impact of sexual, physical, and emotional violence and harassment as being key barriers to how we really release that sense of equity and equality for especially young girls, and where we need to be focusing more around socio-emotional learning interventions and mental health support woven into each of our programs in this area. I think they've also shown us how each of these small ripples of change that they're carrying out in their community, when taken together, really can create a wave for transformation and change that changes the way we understand the role that girls and young women play in education, as well as the role that young men. And I really appreciated that we had young leaders, both young men and young women, talk about how they work in solidarity in that gender transformative approach. I hope that this has inspired you as much as it's inspired me, and moves each of us to a deeper dialogue with young leaders moving forward in this year on the role of youth and especially girls in this. And I want to invite each of you to take advantage of two resources to continue this dialogue and engagement. One is the USAID YouthLead.org platform that we launched just over a year ago. And we just surpassed the 10,000 member mark for the number of young change makers aged 15 to 35 from over 164 countries who have created and drive this virtual platform for and by young leaders. So please consider join it today if you're a young person, or if you want to be a mentor to some of the young people that have been here, or you want to learn more from some of the young leaders who have been talking today. Two of the youth we have here on the panel have participated in the Youth Lead and the Ma'an programs, which are highlighted there as well. The second resource is USAID developed this year in partnership with FHI 360, the Youth Programming Assessment Tool, or YPAT, which is just a tremendous tool that any organization that's on this webinar right now can use to do a self-assessment and action planning about how they're effectively, authentically engaging young people. So consider having your organization use the YPAT tool. You can find it right online. Look up Youth Programming Assessment Tool. You can find it on our youthpower.org site. And the best part about it is we've been trying to get young leaders trained up to be certified facilitators of this, that they could do with a ministry, that they could do with NGOs, that they could do with all sorts of partners on that. So with that, I want to thank each and every one of you for your commitment, for being and supporting young change makers, and the hope that you've instilled in me, and I think in all of us today. So thank you so much. Yolande?
Yes, thank you, Mike. This is did you all feel the passion and the dedication for change? I mean, I'm amazed. I mean, Simon, Miriam, Natasha, and Casimir, you just rock. You are changing the world, and we're very proud to be with you. So please take advantage of all the resources that Mike mentioned. we're going to close this this event, but I just want to give a few thank yous before we close. Of course, you know, to our wonderful youth, I can never thank you enough. I wanted them to be the stars of this program, and I think they were. And you know, you will you have marked our day and our year. Thank you. We at FHI 360, I want to mention that we worked very closely with the Gender and Social Inclusion Department, and I'm really grateful to Andrea Bertone for helping us with resources to make this happen. But so on behalf of our colleagues at FHI 360, our colleagues at Asante Africa, our colleagues at USAID, our colleagues at Women's Global, thank you for joining us today. Natasha, Casimir, Miriam, Simon, your input and your stories will stay with us, and we will keep working with you. We are standing by to support programs that hopefully will improve the life of adolescent girls in their health issues, in their daily issues, in their education issues. So thank you very much, and stay in touch.